Today I want to take 10 minutes to discuss a question that's been plaguing humans for thousands of years, I think since the beginning of time. The title of my topic today is, does my life have meaning? I want to talk about today is not the meaning of life, but why we feel the need to even ask this question at all. Because the question, what is the meaning of life, is something we do every day, which is search for meaning. Because we all want to find if our life has meaning and purpose. We all ask ourselves at times, and probably quite regularly, what is the meaning of this, or what is the meaning of that? When something goes right, what does this mean? When something goes wrong, what does that mean? Is it something I did, or was I responsible for that? We do it in the tiny and significant moments as well as the massive life-changing ones. Like when someone looks at us a certain way and says a certain thing, what did they mean by that? Or when a circumstance comes we weren't expecting, what will this mean for my life? Most of us at one time or another will become frustrated and discouraged. We feel like this life we are living has no meaning, that it's meaningless. I want to take this from a Christian worldview and a Christian perspective. So I want to go to the Bible and to the book of Ecclesiastes, where the writer is King Solomon. Ecclesiastes 1 verse 14, he says, I observed everything going on under the sun, and really it is all meaningless, like chasing the wind. If you read about Solomon, his story, and he reads in chapters in there in Ecclesiastes, he's the richest man on the planet Earth. He's the wisest man. He tries everything. He owns everything. He does it in every other way, but he feels like it's meaningless and it's like chasing the wind. In chapter 3, verse 9 to 13, he says, what profit is there for the worker from which he labors? I have seen the task which God has given to the sons of men to which to occupy themselves. He has made everything beautiful and appropriate in his time. He also planted eternity, a sense of divine purpose in the human heart, a mysterious longing which nothing under the sun can satisfy except God. Yet man cannot find out, comprehend, or grasp what God has done, his overall plan from the beginning to the end. I know that there is nothing better than for them to rejoice and to do good as long as they live, and also that every man should eat and drink and see and enjoy all the good of his labor. It is a gift from God. It's amazing words coming from such an incredible man who lived, who tried everything and felt like he was still chasing the wind. I know that I've felt like that in my own life. Like I've just been on a continuous roundabout. The sun comes up, the sun comes down, and I just felt meaningless. You know, the sun came up, I had breakfast, I went to work, I came home from work, I ate dinner, went to bed, and I repeated the same thing over and over and over again, and wondered what was happening in my life. I don't even know if I like what I'm doing or who I am. It was at this time that the words of this book of Ecclesiastes that someone wrote sort of made more sense to me. And I could definitely associate with it. It was encouraging in a weird way, feeling like it's not just me that feels this way. I must be normal. But what do I do with that? Because there's still a frustration that remained. I think the book of Ecclesiastes, the point of it was not just to read it and feel meaningless, but maybe its intention was to point out that everything passes, that time passes, the good things are fleeting, and that bad times are temporary. But at the end of the day, in all of it all, one thing remains, and that's God. He is eternal. I love that someone writes that he put eternity in the heart of man, that maybe what we're doing is everything that we live for is actually temporal here. And if we think about that, so if the temporary, the fleeting, and the perishable will from time to time reveal themselves for what they truly are, then when they do, we feel unsatisfied deep within ourselves because we're chasing things, maybe not in who we are. I believe that's why we must know what our purpose is. I want to pose this question that if you want to know what the meaning of life is found, or where it's found in fulfilling your purpose. I've been listening to a podcast, This Cultural Moment, by John Comer and Mark Sayers. It's called This Cultural Moment. In one of their episodes, Mark Sayers, he's a pastor from Melbourne. John Mark Comer's a pastor from Oregon in America. And Mark Sayers talks about that we need to have, as humans, reserves in our life. We need to live out of reserves. We can't live empty. And he likened it to a water tank on a house. You need to have reserves for when the drought is on. For out Western New South Wales, we've got drought at the moment. And so it's like you need to have reserves, other reserves to be able to, when hard times come, to live out of those things. That we need those reserves as humans to be happy, healthy, and to flourish. Talk about 3 buckets: the bucket of purpose, community, and freedom. And in the Western culture, that our freedom bucket is overflowing, it's full. We've got so much choice. We have so much freedom that we live out of that it's overflowing, but our purpose bucket is bone dry. And the need to actually limit our freedoms and to sacrifice some freedoms in order to have purpose. We understand that for a runner who wants to run in the Olympics, so they've got to limit their freedoms of what they eat and their time in order to achieve that purpose. And our spiritual lives need to be very similar, that we would sacrifice the freedoms of what we want to do in order to find purpose in our life. Jesus, when we look at the book of Matthew, gives us a bit of an answer, I feel, to this. The teachers of the law are challenging him about all the laws that are so important about finding meaning and purpose in life. And they're challenging Jesus, saying, what's the most important one to find meaning in life? And Jesus in Matthew 22:36 says, let me answer this. In verse 37, he says, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law of the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. Simple. Love God, love people. I found myself as a Christian before trying to find purpose and meaning in my career path, in relationships. And I hung myself on those things. Who I was what I was doing. But when they all disappeared, I had career paths that fell down the drain. I had relationships that fell apart. My own family fell apart. All of a sudden, I was questioning my whole purpose and meaning. I came to the point where I wanted to take my life. It was interesting that that meaning fell so quickly away. But those things left me feeling hungry and thirsty. There was no purpose because they were temporary. I remember going back and just trying to find out then who was I meant to be. I looked in Jeremiah 29:11. I paraphrase this, and I found some answers here. God actually said, I've got a plan and a purpose for your life, to prosper you and to give you a hope and a great future. But if you look for me, that's when you'll find purpose and meaning. When you pray and you seek me with all of your heart, with all of your wholehearted you'll find me. Ecclesiastes talks about all of those things, seeking pleasures, the happiness, and that they're futile. To gain the gaining of knowledge, the importance of your work, your job, your title, the pursuit of justice in the world, of judicial loopholes, the riches, friendships, and happiness. Because at the end of the day, none of this is going to satisfy these things in your life. They're just products of life. They're not the end goal. I want to ask this question, how can true satisfaction for eternal beings such as us ever be attained by securing or chasing after the things that are by nature temporary? The meaning isn't in the things, it's in the purpose that we've been called to. Love God and love people. It's so challenging to do that. How do I love God? How do I love people? Well, I believe it's when we lay our lives down, we actually seek God and we actually worship Him and open our hearts to Him. That daily we worship God and we love Him and we give Him access to our heart and allow Him to come and lead us, that we would connect with Him on a deep level. We fail at that at times, but that we try again and we seek Him wholeheartedly, that we'll be found by Him and we'd know a relationship with Him. And as we love Him and we find He loves us and we're full of that love, that we're able to actually go and love people. And there's so much deep satisfaction that we find and a deep longing that's filled when there's a relationship with God, and it's actually that ability to be able to give into a relationship with others and to love others. There's such deep longing that is met. And we believe that's how God has made us, and that's how, as Christians, that we design that, because as we read, God put eternity in the heart of man, and eternity is to be with God forever. We'd find that He's made us for relationship with Him and with others. Rick Warren, in his book, The Purpose-Driven Life, what on earth am I here for, is the question that he's asked in his title. He highlights that when we fully grasp that this life is a preparation for eternity, it's an interesting thought, that we will change the way we approach our lives and everything that we do, and that many things that we held as important will actually seem trivial. Rick also states The closer you live to God, the smaller everything else appears. To conclude, I just want to wrap this up. That believe that God's great purpose at the core of all of our life is that we would know him and in turn find true purpose and meaning to fulfill the ache of life's big questions within us. You can have a personal relationship with God. Jesus writes in the book of Revelation 3:20, "Look, I stand at the door and knock. If you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in and we will share a meal together as friends." We'll find true meaning when we find our purpose. We'll find our true purpose when we love God and love others. Thank you.